nobody's going to understand me if I don't understand myself, right? So that's where I went on a journey of discovery for me so that I could explain it to other people. But that helped me so much because I got to know myself so well. Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, I'm Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. Today I have another coaching session to share with you. I spoke to Palack about being overwhelmed with the pandemic, finding understanding, and needing to change for other people. If you're interested in a free coaching session, please go to infjwoman.com/coaching. There's a link for it in the show notes. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you know that you can get all of the show notes along with all the links to everything that we're talking about by going to thequietonespodcast.com. While you're there, make sure you check out my book, The INFJ User Guide. This book will help you understand what it means to be an INFJ and to see the impact that it has on your life. Also, remember that you can watch the video interview at youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. Thank you so much for being on the show. Let's get right into it. What is it that you need coaching with? What can I help you with?
But it's just that during this quarantine phase that I'm feeling a lot of things basically. Mainly the loner that I am, even not compatible with the most of the family members. So I had a breakdown 2 days ago. It's just that INFJs are so difficult to understand, and also mostly people don't perceive us as being very sensitive because on the outside we show that we hardly care about anything. So I think that is also a problem.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, the quarantine you mentioned, the quarantine is hard for everybody. Not only is it hard for us as INFJs, but it's stressing everybody out. So I feel like all of our emotions are stressed out to the max, and all of the people around us are as well. And when we're all in a confined space, we tend to take things out on each other because we don't have those normal outlets that we usually have, right? You're not going out like you were. Even if you're just going to the grocery store or getting out for a walk, you're probably not doing that hardly at all. I know that now in the United States, things are starting to lift a little bit, which is nice. I'm not sure where you're at. Are you in the United States?
I am from India.
You're from India. So is it starting to lift there, or is it still bad?
Not really. Where I live is the containment zone for now.
Yeah. Well, for us in the United States, we were suggested to stay home, which was, they closed everything, so it was kind of like that's all that you had was to stay home for about 3 months. So I mean, I've heard that's kind of the timetable for around the world, so hopefully it doesn't last any longer than that. But the best thing that you can do in that situation is to recognize what you're feeling. And when you start to feel overwhelmed and exhausted, notice those feelings and name them. And then do the things that you do to help yourself when you're feeling those things. So focus on self-care. Focus on what helps you, anything that helps you. So whether it's taking a bath or reading a book, if you can go outside and take a walk, the sunlight helps so much. And just being able to get away from everyone that's around you just for a little while, it helps a lot, even if it's just in your space. That's one of the things I like about taking a bath is I can just close the door and have some
Shut
time to
everybody
myself
off
for a while. Right. The second thing that you mentioned is INFJs being hard to understand. We are very hard to understand. That's what got me started with my blog, actually, is I didn't even understand myself. So I was like, okay, nobody's going to understand me if I don't understand myself, right? So that's where I went on a journey of discovery for me so that I could explain it to other people. And I had this great advantage of my niece, who was 13 at the time. And she's one of those people who will not let you get away with like half of an answer. She has to know every single thing. She wants the facts. And then once you have the facts, then she has more questions about them, right? So I had to learn how to explain everything in depth and be sure about my answers. But that helped me so much because I got to know myself so well. And I had no idea how completely lost I was when it came to what I'm feeling and how I think about things, which, you know, once you start to learn about your personality and going even deeper into the functions of our personality, then it helps so much that when you're in those situations of I'm feeling overwhelmed, which is usually how I feel, especially with the quarantine. I know that I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I don't know what that means. So then once you start learning about emotions, then you can say, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed and right now I'm angry because none of this was my fault and yet I'm stuck at home. And I'm scared because I don't want to get the virus and I don't want any of my family to, you know, and you just go through and you start naming each one of those things and it takes away a lot of the power. But then you're also able to set those down and to say, okay, what can I be feeling right now? What can I actually control? What can I fix? What can I change? Does that make sense?
It does make a lot of sense. Even before, I want to tell you, before this quarantine period, I was not aware that I was in such a category, INFJ. I just found out during the lockdown. I was reading some of the Chanakya books where they told us to find out the personal traits you have, the weaknesses and strengths. So they use that astrology is one of the things that people are told about you initially to your parents. So that is how your parents focus on your well-being in a certain direction. But then I thought, then there must be more. You cannot go to the astrologist every time. So I googled how to get to know more about personality. So there were a lot of links and there were questions I answered. It was INFJ. I didn't know. Then there, I joined Twitter. I found out about all of it, what it is, and most of the things I was able to relate. So now mostly I have all the answers. I thought that maybe whatever weaknesses I have, I would be able to overcome them in this quarantine period or work over them. But then when I come in contact with somebody, then another person, so I feel everybody has their own perception about what is right and what is wrong, what you should change in yourself. So you can never exactly know what your weaknesses are. Maybe for you that is a weakness, with some other person maybe a strength.
Yeah.
So you never know. So that is so difficult to find out the balance between strength and weakness. It's like getting harder and harder the more and more I'm reading about it.
For INFJs, we're always focused on making ourselves better, right? We see all of the issues and all the problems, and our first instinct is to just go fix them, right? I was just having a conversation last night with one of my friends about this. We were both talking about how we have this ideal version of ourselves in our head, and it's so far off from what we want to be. And our conversation was, are we supposed to actually be that, or is that just something that's like extreme? And we have both agreed that we never met anybody who actually was that version of themselves, right?
Exactly.
So I think our idea is that we need to be better all of the time. But what I've learned about my personality is that some of our weaknesses don't need to be improved. They don't need to be fixed or changed. The first step is to just accept that that's how we are. And there are improvements that you can make over time, but is it really a problem? Now, it depends on what it is, right? One of the things that comes up a lot for INFJs is the fact that we change our personality to fit the people around us, right? And a lot of the times when you read things on different blogs, people say, oh, that's a terrible thing because you're being fake and you need to learn how to change that. You need to learn who you really are and be the same person every single time. But is it really a problem? I mean, it's a problem if you think it's a problem. If you're going to massive extremes to morph yourself into a whole new person just because they see you that way, right? But you can also see it as a blessing because you can be around so many different personality types and relate to each one of them. So as long as you're staying true to yourself, I don't really see it as a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem, right? But a lot of the weaknesses that you come across aren't always things that you can change. One of the big ones, another big one, I guess, is being introverted. A lot of people, I'm sure it's like this all over the world, but especially in the United States, they'll tell you, oh, being introverted is terrible. Here's 12 things that you can do to fix that. But for me, I don't see it as a problem that needs to be fixed. And I don't think that I can. In fact, I'm positive I can't change it. Being introverted to me is not being shy. It's how I recharge my batteries, right? So I can't force myself to recharge by being around other people. I can fake it, but I can't change that about me, right? So when you go through the list of weaknesses, you have to ask yourself, is this my truth? Is this really something that I believe about myself as a weakness? Does it really need to be changed? Or is it the perception of this person who wrote this piece that they think that it's a weakness? Does that make sense?
It does. A lot of sense actually. And talking to a fellow INFJ, it's so relieving that somebody can actually understand what you feel and what you go through on day-to-day basis.
Yes. Yes. That's one of the biggest benefits that I've gotten from my podcast is being able to talk to other INFJs and just knowing there's somebody out there who relates to you, who understands exactly what you're saying and you don't have to explain it. It's
The best
completely
part is
amazing.
we are so bad at repeating things and we get irritated by it. You hear it once, twice, and that is all. We can't go on repeating and repeating, then we get exhausted and we are like, okay, it's fine. I don't want to explain. That is all.
Yep.
So that happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten to the point where I'm just tired of explaining myself to other people. So I've realized that if they don't understand me, that's okay. We can still be friends if they want to be, but I'm not going to explain myself anymore. I'm going to live a life that's true to me, and I'm going to surround myself with people who are interested in understanding me. And the more that I've done that, the more that I've sat down and stepped away from the people who aren't that interested, my life has been so much better. I've attracted so many friends who enjoy my personality for the way that it is. They like me for being me, and I don't have to change to be around them.
But then those friendships are not so long lasting. They are just for a short duration of time.
The ones that you change to be around? Yeah.
Because most of my friendship, or even I would say rather all of them, they are for the time being, till the time I'm working with them on something. That is all the connection that I have. Maybe I would find a trustworthy person for some duration, then I get changed on to another person. Okay, that person was there for such duration. Now I'll go and find the another one.
Yes, I've had a lot of friendships like that too. When I was in school, and now that I work, there's a lot of friendships like that. And I've noticed because of the quarantine, I've been working from home, and I had friendships at work, but I haven't really talked to those people because I haven't seen them now for 3 months. But some of the really good friends that I have, only 3 of them live in the same city that I do, and everyone else lives all over the world. So those people, though, it doesn't matter where we live. And some of them I don't talk to for several months, but then, you know, we'll start talking again. We just pick up our friendship like where it is. So when you have those real connections, you'll stay with those people. And a lot of people call them Facebook friends, right? But I don't discount my Facebook friends because they're really good friends and they're genuine. And I know that anytime that I have a problem, like the friend I was talking to last night, I've never met her in person. I only know her through my podcast and through Facebook Messenger. And it was easy just to send her a link to an article that I was reading and say, are you like this too? Does this make sense to you? And we had this whole conversation that I could never have with the people that I'm just casual friends with. So I think it's important to have both types of friendships. When you work in an office, it is important to be, you know, to talk to the people that are there and maybe have somebody that you go to lunch with every once in a while. But as INFJs, we also need those deep connections, right? Those people who just understand.
We're always longing for deep connections.
Yep. That's why I love my community. That's one of the reasons that I started my Instagram, and it's also one of the reasons that I started the membership community that I have too, because everyone there, you know, we're all INFJs and we're all looking for that deep connection. And it's amazing to be able to share our experiences and have 20 people who understand and who'll respond to you really quickly.
And make things more relatable other than what the other person is facing.
Right.
Since I am a doctor by profession, so it gets very difficult for me sometimes to make people understand. Even if it is a patient-doctor relationship, that also makes it difficult.
Yeah.
So I struggle a lot with the explanation part. Most of it when somebody is not very counterproductive and wants to know the details of all of it. Because as a doctor, you cannot through and through say everything, because you are also bound by certain things, and on paper you have to show a lot of things, but then you want to be authentic also. So I struggle with that too.
Yeah. One of the best things I can tell you about that is to start with understanding. It helps first to understand yourself, to understand how you communicate, how you relate to other people, and where you're at as far as your emotions, especially like with the quarantine and all the stress and anxiety that's going on. But then also approach them with understanding as well, to know that they're stressed out, they're going through a big thing, especially if you're a doctor, they're sitting in front of you, they're stressed out, right? Most people don't go to the doctor when they're healthy. But then once you get to know them a little bit better, especially when it comes to your friends and your family, you can start trying to figure out what their personality type is. And once you know that, then you'll know how they communicate and how to best relate to them. I know that my niece is an INTP, And so when I'm trying to convince her of something, I can't come to her from a feelings perspective because she doesn't understand that. That's one of her least developed functions. So when I'm trying to convince her of something, I come to her with facts and figures and logic. And she understands that a lot better. I also know that because she has a perceiving personality, you can't back her into a corner with a strict schedule and a bunch of timelines that she has to hit, because that's not going to work for her. You have to come to her with an open type of perspective and say, this is what you should do, and you can figure out how to set your own schedule.
But this is all you have to do.
Right,
this is
right.
what you have to fit it in your day.
Yeah, right. These are the steps that you need to take. This is how it's going to work. You do it in your own time frame. That's what works for her, right? So I know that when we get into a discussion or an argument, or if she's struggling with something, that's how she communicates. That's what's effective for her. Whereas if it was me, it would be different, right? Don't come to me with facts and logic. Ask me how I feel, right? And if
Exactly. Emotions matter to us more.
Right.
And also we have a very contradictory thing that where we have to use the intellectual self, we use our emotional self. And where our emotional self is to be used, we are more intellectually thinking there.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it's kind of a balance for INFJs because we use both the thinking and the feeling parts of our brain. So I like what Evan Carmichael says. He says the small decisions you make with your head and the big decisions you make with your gut or your heart.
It was so nice talking to you. So I can actually feel that somebody can understand. I've not met a fellow with the same personality. So I still struggle with knowing who is what personality in my family also, and who clicks more with me. I go more with the numerology thing, but maybe now after I've read all the personalities, maybe I'll be able to figure out even more about others.
Yeah, so it's usually pretty easy, although my family has been the hardest for me to type, but there's really only 4 questions that you need to answer to get like a rough overview. Is whether they're introverted or extroverted. So do they like to spend a lot of time alone, or do they spend time with their friends? That's the first letter. The second letter is, do they focus on the present, like right now? Do they take everything that you say just at face value? Or are they focused on the future and they can read between the lines? So that's either sensing or intuitive. The third one is thinking or feeling. So are they all about facts and logic, or do they make decisions like they go with their gut? So that's thinking or feeling. And the last one, perceiving or judging. Perceiving people have difficulty making decisions, and they're usually kind of messy and disorganized. They like to keep things open. And judging people are more organized. We have a plan, and we're more strict with, we want decisions made. Right?
Self-discipline also, we are very strict with it, with the timing, with what kind of work, when it is to be done.
Yeah, for sure. Remember that if you're interested in a free coaching session, you can find all of the information at infjwoman.com/coaching. There's a link for it in the show notes. I also have a couple of resources that I wanted to share with you. I have started a Facebook group again. It is for anyone who's an INFJ. You can find it at facebook.com/group/INFJwoman. There's a link for it in the show notes. I also have a free guide about how to find your purpose. If you're struggling with how to find your purpose, this is a wonderful resource that is available to you for free. And you can find it by going to infjwoman.com/findyourpurpose. And there's also a link for that in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again next week.